Hey traders, this is Christian Farmer at Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Friday, November 1st, first day of the month. So, we will do as normal, quick recap for the day, quick recap for the week. What I like to do on Fridays is just kind of just go over the week's performance, see how everything ended up for the week, and process a little bit of information. So first thing first, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're talking about is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So what I also wanted to kind of start with was just looking at going into this week. One of the things that I really started to see was a lot of breakouts, a lot of sector participation. Right, that's something that we hadn't seen, previously in previous months, but really strong market breadth where, it's not just one group of stocks that are leading the market, but more and more we started to see one by one different sectors performed very well. It's kind of started with the home builders and the semiconductors. Then it really spread over to industrials. Not so much XLI, but if you look at the equally weighted, right, the equally weighted industrial ETF, right, because Boeing is such a big weight in this thing. This is RGI. So again, just like XLI, but instead it's equally it's an equally weighted ETF. And then, of course, healthcare was something that we noticed too, which we started to see just more and more of healthcare participate. Everything from there's so many different parts of healthcare, but managed care names were started to go. Straight pharma names really strong in that group as well. Some biotech as well. Bigger biotech started to outperform. So, I do get excited when I do my homework, something that we've been doing, really at it pretty hard, doing a lot of research every night, because when we get these opportunities, you want to really strike when the iron's hot, right? When we're seeing that momentum and a lot of areas of the market participate. So I tend to spend more time in front of the screens when I see those opportunities. So this week was pretty rewarding, and last week for the member weekend video, getting everybody ready for the weekend, for the week ahead. It was one of the longest videos that I've put together, probably all year long, at least in a couple months, because I just saw so many things that were starting to kind of fire. So one of the things that I'll add to that is if we look at the performance for the week, very strong, right? Top line, first thing I like to go over, SPY up 1.5%. This has kind of been running. It's I think it was up 1.2% for the week prior. So I think we've now had about 4 weeks of gains now for the S&P. We kind of look at this. Maybe if we look at the weekly chart, we'll be able to tell really easily. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's four straight weeks of gains for the S&P as I've been doing this video. Small caps again, really nice performance. Hey, listen, from time to time I'm gonna get things wrong. You're gonna get things wrong. It's just a part of trading. I thought IWM yesterday showed a rejection, and we came back at the end of the day. Sometimes you make these intraday conclusions and they're absolutely wrong, because we can really come back at the end of the day like we did yesterday. And look at what happened today in small caps. They had the outperformance today and finished up 1.7%. Really nice outperformance over S&P as Qs, which were no we're not any major slack there. They both finished up around 1% for the day. So again, really, really strong flows. Again, keep in mind we had a ton of events this week. A lot of stuff going on today. We had both the jobs number, we had the ISM number, and it's also the first of the month. Remember, first of the month, typically there is usually new money that's put to work, and then sometimes it can kind of trail off from there. I think we saw that on the first of the month. This was this was 10-1, so I guess we didn't see that on the first of the month this month, but typically that's how it can go. Moving back to our performance, also what is really exciting too, and by the way, the Qs, no slouch there, up 1.7%. Look at emerging markets, and again, this is what really gets me going too is when I start to see not only the U.S. perform, right? I like to talk about what a lot of people don't mention, or a lot of people may not have on the radar, is international equities. So when I really see strong global breadth, which what I'm referring to, not just breadth in the U.S. names like in the S&P 500, but globally. And emerging markets were up 1.8% last week. So now that's a couple weeks of emerging market gains. Also, EFA, if you're not familiar with that ETF, it's essentially Europe and Japan, so international developed, also up for another week. Bonds, which were really kind of a big question mark to me, nice to see them sell off today or down. They weren't down that much, down about 30 basis points, but they were kind of a question mark to me, seeing them up pretty strong, for two days in a row. Um, so anyway, they were up for the week. So I'm getting distracted. Gold was also up slightly for the week, so pretty good participation. So and then of course, if you look at sectors, what was interesting, I thought today with the S&P at 1%, there were still some areas that did not perform. Wasn't a full participation. If you look at like the FANG names, they were basically flat on the day today. So I talked about this in not last week's video, but the week before, about how these rotations, right? This week it was biotech up 4%, steel names up 3.7%. We really kind of caught something unusual that was going on earlier in the week. Speaking of the steel names, this name RS, Reliance Steel and Aluminum, was up huge on earnings. Obviously, the best performer out there. Again, RS. It's nice, easy to remember because you say relative strength. This name has relative strength. Reliance Steel and Aluminum up absolutely huge, and it kind of just seemed that some names were going to follow what this name was doing, and they certainly did. We did see some call activity in names like Alcoa, which I played this I think on Friday of last week. And then, of course, U.S. Steel had earnings, again, doing something different. So these names feel like, keep in mind, you kind of look at that Friday, at that green candle, and you're like, wow, what a move. This name has been in a world of hurt. I think they were talking about it on Fast Money on CNBC yesterday, but, big downtrend. So these names are finally coming to life, as this phase one of the trade deal, it seems to be coming to a close. I think it's just the fact that the tensions are not ramping up. Who knows what they're going to get in terms of future tariff relief, but just the fact that they're talking seems to be giving a relief, move to this. Look at the volume today on U.S. Steel too. So still way below 200-day moving average, but as long as you're being a disciplined trader and maybe trading it versus today's open, that would be something to do if you're looking for this. But a bunch of other names woke up. Somebody brought this name to my attention in the trading room today. Again, that's the beauty of our trading room. We've got so many good traders in there coming up with some good ideas. But look at this LYB. Very strong and trying to come out of this. Notice it took out a V pocket. It's now back above it. So if you like this name, set your stop to 91. And kind of go from there. And if you look at this on the weekly chart, notice, by the way, the 200-day moving average is starting to kind of curl up a little bit. But weekly chart, you don't have resistance till about 161. That's a decent move. Also, like names like DuPont were strong today. I like the LYB a little bit better because it's above the 200-day moving average. A little bit better strength there. But again, up 5.6%. And if you go through some of these names, in the energy group as well, they did very well today as well. What else? Semis right there again. And interesting software names up 2.6%. So everybody talking about a breakdown in those names. Like a week ago or so. Back strong, up 2.6%. I did send out over the weekend. I know I'm going back and rehashing some of the analysis that I've been doing, but hey, I put in the work and I'm proud of it. I talked about how there was one of the largest inflows that we've seen going back into the software ETF. Big dip, and sure enough, it was up 2.6%. So it looks like they were right. Tech also in there, of course. Apple up 2.1%. Industrials. So again, pretty good breadth. What didn't perform? Solar, retail. This was kind of interesting today too. I saw names like Restoration Hardware, which again, some of these names have just been, they've run a lot. So you have to put that in perspective. Like Restoration Hardware has gone from $100 to 175 within the matter of like 3 or 4 months. So, these names, they're not going to go up in a straight line forever, right? And once they come down pretty hard, right? See the software names. Those names went up vertical for 6 months. And they of course were going to take a breather. Same thing like in Lulu. Let this name come in a little bit, and I'll be a buyer once it kind of settles in, right? But retail. My point is, Lulu, Restoration Hardware. Not every name was up. So again, the point that I'm making here is with this rotation that we've got going on, and by the way, very strong performance internationally as well. But if you're a little bit hesitant about or kind of getting caught up in the sector rotation, very easy to do. Put on a couple, call spreads in the major indices, right? The Dow looks like it could be next to breakout. If you look at DIA, it's getting pretty close. You could put on a long diamond spread. You could put on a long SPX spread. It's something that we've been talking about in the room. I went long NDX this week. Rather than try to figure out every day what names are going to be rotated into, that works really well if the overall market just goes up. And again, that's something I haven't been doing, but you change, right? You change your trading plan a little bit to adhere to what the market is doing, right? And once I started to see, hey, that we could really break out here, I've been doing a little bit more index call spreads, right? So again, very nice. As we mentioned earlier in the week, a couple other fine points that we mentioned is that we don't want to see volume. We want volume is going to come on turns of the market. So sticking with it while price is above all short-term moving averages. Again, these are all things that I've been going through this and during the videos that I've been sending out this week. So again, really pleased to see how things turned out after we put in all that research and time. Sometimes you put in the research and things don't pan out. But again, getting people ready for the week. Something else that we've been doing every day is putting out basically 2 setups in single stocks, and that's worked really well. Here was to give you an idea, right? To give you an idea of what I've been doing every morning pre-market. Of course, we do a pre-market session too, but my 2 picks for this morning were ATVI and CyberArk. Both did really well. ATVI popped pretty decently. That was a name I traded today. Cyber was on the back of Fortinet. Is that how you say the name? Get that confused. But Cyber was up, 4.8, almost 5% today. ATVI gave back some of the. Looks like it actually finished in the red, but it gave us an opportunity to take gains on the highs of the day, which I did. I hit 2 targets in that trade. Just kind of going through so you could see every day what I've been doing. The other 2 single stock, PayPal, which I did not take, and Nike, which I was able to get out of Nike for some profits this morning. Hit a couple targets in that one. The day before, what did I talk about? I talked about this was another day. UNH and CNC. Those worked very well. I feel like I may have skipped a day in here. I think it was Microsoft. Here we go. Yeah, Microsoft, which worked really well for a day trade. And then UTX, right? So again, I will continue to do that. I can't guarantee every day they're going to work out as well as they did this week. But look at this UTX, really strong. This thing jumped out to all-time highs. So again, if you're following along and watching the names that I call out pre-market, I think you had a pretty decent week if you followed some of those trades. All right, guys. So what else? What else? again, I think for now, right? So what's the strategy? So we'll be going over as I do every weekend. I'll be sending out a video of names that names and groups that I'm watching and so forth, and strategy for next week. But just like we got a day yesterday, right? The reason why I'm focusing on yesterday a little bit is because yesterday seemed a little bit iffy, right? It was like, hey, are we going to come back and kind of retest? We can chop around here for a couple days, or we could do what we did today, right? We never know. No one ever knows. But that could happen next week too. So today, if you look at the trades that I did today, mostly all a net seller. Right here was the Nike that I talked about. Qs again. Today was nice because we rallied throughout the day, but a lot of the moves are happening in the overnight market. Nike, Abbott was able to take a target. This name sold off throughout the session. Again, another name that didn't participate today. WWE, I got out of this trade today. Berkshire Hathaway, what a huge trade. Again, there was a little bit of calls today, but again, if you do the homework, you find the trades before the momentum call buyers are in, right? Again, a lot of times I want to be a seller when we see the momentum call buyers. So this name reports this weekend. I was able to take off the whole swing trade. I rolled out to a higher strike in this one, just because the implied volatility is not very high in Berkshire Hathaway for earnings. Again, always to keep an eye on that. But this was also a hell of a trade that I went on Bloomberg about a week ago and talked about. EEM, also a profitable trade that we did in the room. Only was my only ad, I think, today. Oh, and a little bit of Shack I did too for next week. But again, selling, 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 selling. ATVI, like I mentioned, a couple targets in this one. And then a couple, days like this are really nice to take off some bad trades, right? Keep in mind, not every trade that you put on is going to be a winner. These are really nice to give. These days like this are really nice to kind of get rid of a loser or two. And then you can kind of come into the next week clean slate. So my plan for next week, as we're getting a little bit more overbought and the fear and greed index is higher, I think we're at greed, deep into greed at this point. Sentiment has changed a little bit, but we are now breaking out. So, you're going to have to take the good with the bad. It's great to have breakouts. I've been talking about all week long, embracing the breakout. Don't trade against, in my opinion, do not trade against the breakout, right? You could try to fade things when we get super overbought, but, going with the trend is where I really have learned over years that more money comes from going with the trend than fighting it. So again, that doesn't mean to get over the tips of your skis. As you can see, I was a big net seller today because if we get days like this, if there's a negative headline or two next week, we don't know what we're going to get, then they're great places to add money. And sometimes you just kind of have to hold your nose a little bit and do it like we did at the end of the day yesterday. I always look for confirmation. I sent out a tweet yesterday talking about, I'm on this stuff, right? Looking at multiple different factors, but this is my midday. What did I say yesterday? Thoughts on I put out a midday video yesterday. I said not much has changed. The S&P was still below value. VIX was close to the highs yesterday. So these are all things that I kind of watch, and I said we'll watch for something to change, and that was at like 2 o'clock yesterday. And then all of a sudden, we managed to get into value. And once I got that confirmation that the VIX was coming in, that TLT was going down a little bit, that the S&P was starting to move up, that's when I went ahead and added some trades at the end of the day yesterday, which worked out really well. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to wrap up today's video. I don't want it to be longer than 20 minutes. But again, if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group and you need somebody to kind of analyze the markets for you and give you a couple trade ideas a day, that's what we're doing. And again, where my strength is and where I've been really good is paying attention to what is happening outside, not of growth. I pick up on trends faster than most. There was a bunch of people that I saw on Twitter. I never go out on Twitter and criticize people, but I remember when I started to get a lot more bullish, seeing market breadth really get strong, people were posting bearish trades. So, I'm usually about 2 or 3 days ahead of people before they kind of realize this. Most people on Twitter, it just is what it is. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to give myself a pat on the back, but I've been doing this for a long time. I pick up on global trends and I pick up on U.S. and trends in single names and sectors probably faster than the majority of people. I don't want to say everyone, but I would say 90% of people on Twitter, I pick up on what's changing faster than most. All right, guys, have a great night, and you could sign up at tribecatradegroup.com. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow. See you over the weekend. Thanks. Bye.